Veronica Wells from MadamNoire.com, and today we're sitting here with author Wahida Clark. How are you today?
I'm fine, Veronica. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for speaking with us. So what have you been up to recently?
This is what Wahida has been up to. Justify My Thug.
Okay.
The 5th book to my Thug series. I'm very excited about it.
So for people who haven't been following the series, if they just, do you suggest they follow the series, start from #1, or can they pick this one up?
Because there's so much good stuff before they get to, that builds up to this part 5. So yeah, I definitely suggest that they start with part 1.
Okay, tell us a little bit about the characters in Justify My Thug.
The characters in Justify My Thug: Tasha and Trey, and Jazz and Fahim. They were introduced. Jazz and Fahim was introduced in part 1, Thugs and the Women Who Loved Them. Fahim was a drug dealer. Jazz was a college student. She didn't want to get with him until he got out of the game.
Right.
He did. He gets out of the game, and come to find out, while they're together in college, she's working in a meth lab selling meth and gets busted. So it was just like a whole hypocritical moment for Jazz.
Right.
So they return in Justify My Thug. And Tasha and Trey, they are the Thug series. That's the favorite couple. I hear people call them ghetto fabulous, hood rich. They're just a favorite couple of the Thug series.
Okay. And so reading the book, consequences, it's apparent that consequences are a big theme in the book. Can you speak a little bit about that theme and why you wanted to bring that out?
Well, actually, that's the main theme in all of my books. Every deed has a consequence, even though it's good, it's bad. You reap what you sow, and that's just the main theme of every book that I've written so far.
Okay. All right. So let's start back at the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about your story and how you came to be an author.
Okay. I was in federal prison. I did 9.5 years of a 10.5-year sentence. I was working in a law library, and during that time I was at my fork in the road saying I have to do something, because it was only year 2 of my prison bid. I had 2 teenage daughters at home. My husband, he was incarcerated, and I had to do something to set up a foundation. Plus it costs money to live while you're in prison. You have to pay to wash your clothes, you have to buy soap powder, you have to buy your hygiene products. I needed to do something. So one morning while I'm in the library, I'm flipping through an XXL magazine, and I see this small article. It was a sidebar, actually, and it said that this article, he was incarcerated and he had written a book. And I'm like, wait a minute, he's locked up, he's written a book. His name was Shannon Holmes, and he wrote Be More Careful. So I'm sitting in the library and I'm looking at all the books on the bookshelf, just like this, and then I start visualizing my name on the spines of the book, Wahida Clark, and that's when I had my light bulb moment. I said, I'm going to write a book.
Talk about visualization and the importance of visualizing yourself where you want to be.
Visualization and visualizing me where I want to be, you have to keep that picture in your head. And also, to write it, to think it is to put it in inks, and you also have to write it down. You have to write your visual goals down as well. Writing them down and visually, they go hand in hand.
Right.
And I have so many, I can't even keep up with them.
So you never had any aspirations of being an author before you were in prison?
No, never had any aspirations. I didn't know I could write. It wasn't in my game plan. It wasn't even a thought.
Well, who were the authors that you looked up to before you started writing yourself?
Before I started writing street fiction, I was always reading business books, self-help books, Robert Kiyosaki, Donald Trump, anybody like that. Spiritual books. I didn't even read the hood fiction, but once I took a creative writing class, and the teacher had said, Wahida, if you're going to write those type of books, you have to start reading. Now back in the day, of course, I've read Donald Goines and Iceberg Slim, but that was it. But once I started writing, then I started picking up, and during the time that I started writing my books, the genre of urban street lit was just becoming popular. So whenever a new book would come in, I would read it.
Right. Okay. All right. And so you're with Cash Money Content, which is the same Cash Money that we know, Cash Money Records. How did you stumble upon them, and what made you decide to work with them and getting your books published?
My agent had given me a call. He said, Wahida, Cash Money is going to do a book imprint. What do you think? So I'm like, Cash Money, Lil Wayne, Drake, Nicki Minaj, Slim Baby. Then I'm thinking about all the fans. And I'm like, okay, I need to reach that audience. And I just said, that'll be the vehicle for me to reach that audience, introduce myself to that audience, and have the audience being introduced to Wahida Clarke.
And what do you like about working with Cash Money content?
That they allow me to be hands-on, like with the cover. I love this cover. They allowed me to do me with the cover. And they respect the fact that I have my own publishing company. They didn't have a problem with that.
Right.
They're looking at not as me being their author. They're looking at this as a business venture. And I like that.
This is the last prison question.
That's okay. I like the prison questions.
You like the prison questions, all right. So tell us what you learned while you were in prison.
The old saying, do the time, don't let the time do you. You have to, that is, I had to live by that, because in prison, you don't get that time back. If you don't make the best of it, that time is lost. And if you don't make the best of it, you get out 9 times out of 10 worse off than you was when you first went into the system.
Right. What's next for you?
What's next for Wahida Clarke? Coming this summer, I launched my magazine, Wahida, the magazine. So.
And what can we find in Wahida the magazine?
There's going to be something in it for everybody. I've noticed that the magazines, a lot of them are geared towards the men. There's not a lot for the women. So in my magazine, I'm definitely going to have a portion for the women, a portion for the men. There's going to be health, there's going to be news, there's going to be sports. There's going to be something in it for everybody. And of course, there'll always be book features, because I'm a publisher and an author. So.
What do you think about the general perception of street lit? And do you think it's respected as it should be as a form of literature?
The genre is still very new, because you see, they don't even have a name. They call it urban lit, street lit, hip hop fiction, urban fiction. They don't even have a steady name for it.
Right.
When you go to Amazon, like my book, Justify My Thug, it was #4 on African American studies. There's not even a section for street lit. When you go register your book with certain distributors, they don't have street lit. They just have fiction. You're lucky if you come across urban fiction. So there's a lot of room for growth. A lot of things that has to be done, which I'm gladly taking on a crusade for that.
Right. Okay. I guess lastly, there are a lot of women who want to write books, and you did yours in a situation that's kind of, you know, a bit more difficult than the average woman. So what would you say to someone who's trying to get their stuff published?
Published or write the book?
Well, they've written the book maybe, and how do they go about getting it published?
Okay. Published. There's, you know what, there's so many books out there on getting published. Like I did, I followed what the writer's market said. You got the literary marketplace. There's so many books on self-publishing, how to get published. The information is out there. But the main thing is you got to have a good product.
So Wahida, tell us when and where we can get Justify My Thug.
Justify My Thug comes out April the 26th, 2011, part 5 to the famous Thug series. Bookstore, every bookstore near you. You can also go to Amazon.com. Everywhere. Wahida Clarke's Justify My Thug will be everywhere. Peace.
Anything else you want to add?
Visit me at Wahida Clarke, wclarkepublishing.com, Facebook.com, Twitter, Wahida Clarke Readers Club on Facebook.
All right. And you can visit Madame Noire on Facebook and on Twitter at Madame Noire.
Madame Noire, thank you for having me, and I'll be seeing you again.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.